Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Week 17 of the Fantasy 15 podcast, the official fantasy football podcast of Sauce on the Side. Dippers, if you hear it in my voice, you know why, because it is Week 17 of the NFL season. This is one of the final weeks that we can actually play. This is actually the final week that we can play with a full slate. And Dippers, as always, I am your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Leighton Pip Shaventone.
It is sad. It's gone too fast.
It has went definitely too fast.
It's gone too fast.
I feel like just last week we were just pumping out first week. Me, you, Lex, sitting here just flying through guys that we thought were going to, with sleepers, deep sleepers, just everything throughout the whole season. Like, hey, dude, 17 weeks ago we were sitting here talking about Keelan Cole.
Yeah, like Patrick Mahomes wasn't even on the radar at that point.
No, we had never even heard of Patrick Lindsay.
Then next thing you know, Lex has dealt with plumbing issues that he goes missing. Shout out if you've seen Lex Glasgow. Let him know we miss him, we love him. At Bosco-_24, the Twitter handle. But after last week's recap, Drake, what I can really say about it, One, nothing.
Yeah.
Basically nothing. Pennies. Many long choices. Guy didn't perform. Zach Ertz gets 30 points. Eric Ebron gets 1, gets hurt. A sad week. Bad week for FanDuel last week. Sorry if people listening to me lost you money.
Well, a week for me, I just basically stayed stagnant, Like, I had guys that popped. I was all over Nick Foles. I told everybody to play Nick Foles. Nick Foles pops off, does well. And then the only real hole, I ended up playing Elijah McGuire. Like, that was more of like a Saturday research thing. My week went great. The only thing that was bad about my week is that DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams combined for 30 targets, and they scored 32 points collectively. So, it's not like the opportunity was not there.
Yeah.
Like, opportunity was there, but, hey, our guys just didn't get in the end zone, and they didn't catch all their targets. Like, that's not our fault.
Hopkins, man, I don't know, maybe that ankle is bothering him more than he let on, because he got a lot of targets.
Yeah, got a lot of targets. We had two guys that we were all over. My number one wide receiver, Leighton C's number wide receiver. They combined for 30 targets. Devontae Adams got 18 of those. Adams gets 18 points. And DeAndre Hopkins, which if he didn't catch the touchdown, he was a super bust there at the end. We needed overtime for him to actually come close to hitting value. And then DeAndre Hopkins, he got 12 targets, but he only got 104 yards and no touchdowns. So, honestly, last week, we had the opportunity was there. Production, not so much. Leighton C, hit the noise. Fantasy 15, a Sauce on the Side production. Alright, Leighton C. So I've already done the math for this week. I have came to the conclusion that 5% of this week will be skill, 5% of this week will be matchup, and 90% of this week will be opportunity.
Yes.
This week is going to be the ultimate fluke of all flukes. We just got to get the flukes right. And, there's going to be there will be a percentage of people that play Teddy Bridgewater. There will be a percentage of people that go out there and take flyers on just random guys, hoping that teams start to bench players. So I'm just going to go ahead and run through this real quick because this is housekeeping stuff that you guys do need to know. Teams that we will not play a soul from. The Saints, they're locked into the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's not going to surprise me if Mike Gillislee is getting carries for this team at the end of the game. And Dallas. Dallas is locked into the number 4 seed. Every other team in the NFL is either playing for a playoff seed or pride, and we just need to know which teams to be super, super cautious of. And I'm even going to put the Rams on one of those teams that I'm really not going to play guys off of, because if they have 2-touchdown lead going into half, they're going to call off the dogs.
Yeah, I give you 100%. And for my first quarterback would be another point to the table this week. Teams that have simply melted in. And my top quarterback, top player on the board, might get 40 points this week, is Ben Roethlisberger, he's at home in a game they have to win, playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who Baker Mayfield lit up twice this season. The Cincinnati Bengals do not have Vontaze Burfict this week because he has gotten his 7th career concussion, second of the season.
Hopefully this one knocks some sense into him.
Maybe. Might end his career. It's kind of sad. Or is it even sad?
No, it's not sad. Are you serious? Like, we have a dude that's been out here headhunting for the last 5 years of his NFL career, and he goes down with, terrible. I mean, terrible for him, but is it sad? No.
No. But Big Ben, he's at home. We know mantra. He has been super great this year. But last week, 29-point game they had to win. They lost it. This week, could be at home. A game they have to win against the worst defense in football. Big Ben, lock him in.
Yes, you have to lock Big Ben in. If you play 3 lineups this week and Big Ben's not on a single lineup, there's something wrong with you. My pick, actually, guys, either I'm just an idiot or we were on to something here with Big Ben, with Aaron Rodgers coming back with his FU week, his big FU tour to Mike McCarthy. I was on it from day one, and then I had rode the wave for like 3 weeks, and then I come off of it last week for the first time all season, and then he pops off. Aaron Rodgers at 8,400. I don't really think that he's that hurt. I'm going to go ahead and say that. After last week's performance, I'm going to say he's not that hurt. He finally was able to give Mike McCarthy the big middle finger, and I think he's going to do that again this week. In his 4 games without Mike McCarthy, he's thrown the ball 40 times or more in 3 of those games. So you look at Rodgers' season as in totality, his second most productive game of the season outside of last week was against the Lions earlier this year. He had 440 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. And we know that Aaron Jones isn't going to be back there, so they're not going to turn around and hand the ball off 20 times. Now, I do think that Jamal Williams will see a good portion of carries. He'll probably get the lion's share of the carries for the Packers, but it's not going to be a ton. It's going to be more like Aaron Rodgers stepping back, passing the ball, just like I was on 4 weeks ago. And I think we have to dive back into it this week. I don't think they're playing for anything other than Aaron Rodgers' pride, and Aaron Rodgers' pride basically takes precedent over everything else going on in the Green Bay organization. So Leighton C, cheap quarterback. I know that there's a couple flyers out there. There's a guy that I really like at 6,000. Who do you like?
Going at 7,600, Jameis Winston. Another thing you got to look for this week, people are starting to play for. Jameis Winston, team's out of playoffs, but this is his last chance to play for that extension. Playing Atlanta, who's a terrible pass defense at home, he wants to put a nice reminder in ownership's mind going out in the offseason saying, okay, I just put up 5 touchdowns, 400 yards at home.
Yeah, and the only thing in the NFL that I like more about a team that's playing for their playoff lives is a player playing for his financial security. And Jameis Winston fits the mold for that. Guys, like, this will be the week to play Jameis Winston. I will be all over Jameis Winston, but another guy that I'm looking at that is going to be playing for that financial security is at 6,000, and that's Blake Bortles. This is his farewell game to the Jaguars. Like, this makes no sense, honestly, just because of how, Blake Bortles' stats hadn't been that great for fantasy, but he's jumping right into a juicy matchup. You look at the Texans secondary over their last 5 games, 303 yards, 397 yards, 399 yards, 253, and then 471 yards. That is a ton of yards to give up over the last 5 weeks. And then you look at it like touchdown performances, 11 touchdowns in their last 5 games. And Blake Bortles is always that guy who's basically has a good chance to run one in for a score, especially whenever he's going to be trying to show and give everybody the chance to see all the tools that he has, because it's an all but set conclusion that he's not going to be playing for the Jags. So he has to get that one last reminder into NFL GMs' heads that, hey, I'm a quarterback that's played in the AFC Championship that deserves another shot past this team. And I think Blake Bortles at 6,000, this is the time to play him. So Leighton C, running backs, high price, where are you leaning?
Same logic as before. Go with James Conner. If you're Steelers, game they have to win. James Conner's an absolute animal. He's healthy. Practiced fully this week. Playing the worst defense in the NFL at home.
Yeah, James Conner's is actually the only high-priced guy that I wrote down here. And basically for everything Leighton said, and then you couple that in to this is guys, we would not be seeing him at 8,000. I mean, he is a running back that has averaged 20 points per game this season, and you do not get that unless you've had a pretty good stint being out due to an injury. And I think this is not only a game that the Steelers need to win, but they're going to try to win with style points. So they're going to go out there, they're going to ride the starters all the way to the end, win big, just in case Baltimore does win as well. That way they can look back at the end of the day and say, hey, even if the season is a flush at the end of the year, we still beat the Bengals by 30 points. So take that. So wait and see. There's going to be some value here at the bottom of the barrel. Where are you leaning for running backs at the cheap price?
To me, I like a whole lot. One guy I think you're going to talk about. So I'm going to talk about Gus Edwards playing Cleveland at home. Guys, since Lamar Jackson has taken over, he's had 92 yards, 104 yards, 67 yards, 82 yards, 118 yards, 115 yards. He gets all the carries. They run the ball because he can't throw it. They're at home. Again, they have to win the division. Against the 24th ranked rushing defense.
Yeah, I do like Gus Edwards here, but I mean, there's a ton of value down here. So I'm going to start off with C.J. Anderson. Guys, if Todd Gurley does not play, he has to be in your lineup. The only reason we didn't play him last week was because that FanDuel didn't even have him on the rosters for us to play.
It's true.
He's 6,200, and guys, he got 20 carries last week for 167 yards and a score. You're getting Todd Gurley-like production for $6,200. So, like, and, you know, I've always been a big believer that, like, you know, systems make the running backs, and I think that's true in L.A. for the Rams, and I think that if he is able to suit up and play, he's going to absolutely dominate, and you look at the fact that the 49ers have given up 5 straight weeks of a rushing touchdown to a running back. You have to love the matchup for him because he will find pay dirt if Gurley is out. Another guy I like, this is a starter. 6,400 is Chris Carson. Guys, Seattle needs to win. They would rather go play Dallas than go play in Chicago. And I don't think that that's me just being a Bears fan speaking that. Like, they've already beat the Cowboys this season, and they got beat by the Bears. And plus, you know, the home field advantage for Dallas is not as much as it is in Chicago in the weather. So they're going to do all they can to win. And he has 3 straight games of 90 yards on 20 carries with at least 1 touchdown. And he's had back-to-back 23-point outings, and the Cardinals have given up 100 rushing yards to opposing running backs in all but 4 games this season. One of those was a 98-yard performance by the Chargers. I think that Chris Carson is one of the best, if not the best, value plays in the NFL. I don't know how the hell he's still 6,400. He's getting carries left and right. It does not make any sense. His pricing is probably the most odd pricing I've seen in FanDuel all season. So wait and see. Let's go ahead and get to wide receivers. I was saying this before we got on here. This is a week that I'm going to be paying down for running backs because I know which guys are going to get the opportunities, and we're going to be paying up for wide receivers because we know wide receivers that are playing in big games that need to win, those will be the guys that will produce instead of just throwing a dart blindly into the air and hope that the third-string wide receiver on a playoff team that's going to be locked in is going to, you know, it's a safer floor with those guys. So, wait and see. High-priced wide receivers is probably where we're going to be all over this week. Who do you like?
Well, probably going to follow my trend to have for the show. Get 2 guys, Antonio Brown, J.S. Sister. Drake, what does the Pittsburgh have to do on Sunday?
They have to win.
And where are they playing at?
They're playing at Pittsburgh.
And who are they playing?
The Bengals.
How good is the Bengals defense?
Terrible.
That's my case.
Leighton C could go out there and catch 10 balls for 100 yards and a score against the Bengals. Yeah. Like, this defense is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, Juice Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown, liking both equally. I'm gonna find a way to play both of them and Big Ben. It's possible.
No. You're going to have to do that. And with these running backs that we're dishing out, like, there is an opportunity to do so, especially if you take one of them and throw them into your flex. I'm going to give you 4 wide receivers, and at the high price option, I know that Leighton C's already hit on 2 of them. Juju, bounce back game. Guys, if you don't remember, Juju fumbled at the end of the game. Not only is he a player that is playing for his playoff life, but he's also playing for his pride. Like, Juju, he's a stand-up guy. He's fun as hell to watch and follow, and I think that he took that fumble to heart, and I think he feels like he let Steelers Nation down, so he's going to bounce back in a big way. AB's always going to be there, but the guy that I am all over is Davante Adams. Guys, he had 18 targets last week. He had 1 point per target. That is as big as an outlier as you're going to find all season for this guy. So I do think that he will bounce back this week against Detroit, where Aaron Rodgers had his second most production of the season. And if you like Rodgers, you have to love Davante Adams. Also, there's no way in hell Tyreek Hill, priced at $7,800, goes 5 weeks without a touchdown. Do you realize that? He has went 4 weeks without a touchdown. I don't know if he's scored since Kareem Hunt got kicked off the team.
So yeah, I know he's been pretty cold recently, but he hasn't scored in 5 weeks.
Yeah, has not scored a touchdown in 4 weeks. I doubt he makes it 5, especially playing the Oakland Raiders. Leighton C, cheap wide receivers. I know that I felt like there wasn't a ton to love. So my cheap price guy is actually going to be kind of expensive still. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, if I'm looking for a cheap guy, maybe Robert Foster's not a bad option.
Yeah.
There was Colin Sutton had an okay game last week. But we're going forward, Alshon Jeffrey. Game 2 last week, him and Nick Foles had a thing going on. He still had 82 yards last week, but he didn't find the end zone. This week, he'll go for a game they have to win. Nick Foles is going to be looking forward to the guy. It's him and Ertz. I'm going to lean Jeffrey for the price.
Yeah, so the guy I'm going to go with, he's pretty much been Davante Adams, like the poor man Davante Adams. He's 7,100, and that's Julian Edelman. He's not going to have those weeks where he goes out there and, just absolutely puts the burners on everybody, and he's not going to score you a ton of points. But this is a guy that has had double-digit targets in 3 straight games and has 12 or more points in all but 2 games that he's played this season. So he's been a model of consistency. Same with Davante Adams. Like, I've been telling you to play Davante Adams every single week just to go out there and nab your guaranteed 18 points and walk off into the sunset and basically roll dice on everybody else. I'm doing the same with Julian Edelman. I'm guaranteeing you at least 12 points from him, and then anything after that is just going to be, upside. So I think Julian Edelman's the way to go here, especially looking at a Jets defense that's given up back-to-back 280-yard performances and 2 touchdowns to wide receivers, especially in a game that New England is looking at like it's a must-win, so they get that first-round bye to kind of fix things in-house for them. I think Julian Edelman is the way to go for a cheap-priced wide receiver. So Leighton C, tight end. They have burnt my ass lately. It's either George Kittle catching for 210 yards, or Zach Ertz going out there and getting 30 points, or Travis Kelce getting 30 points. We have not been on the right side of this all season, so where in the hell are we going?
Well, I want to play Zach Ertz.
So do I.
But he's 7,800, tough to do. George Kittle. I like George Kittle. George Kittle has been really hot the past couple of weeks.
Zach Ertz is the same price as Tyreek Hill.
Well, has scored him for 5 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Zach Ertz has been hot. And then go down the list, Jared Cook, good matchup, but he's hurt. With I think 160 yards away from 1,000. Will he go out there and play hurt in week 17? I don't know. How much will he play? Can't play him. A guy I do like is Ian Thomas from the Panthers. Got a touchdown catch last week, got 5 targets, 48 yards from the one quarterback. The Saints defense is already bad. They might not play all the stars the whole game. So Ian Thomas is the guy I like at 5,700.
Yeah, I think the only, I wrote 3 options down. Cook, Jared Cook, he's hurt. But I do think he'll play, and he gets a great matchup. I mean, you look at the Chiefs, 3 games of 30-plus points to opposing tight ends this season, and they've allowed 7 tight end touchdowns over the last 5 weeks. So that's pretty phenomenal. I mean, he's getting as good as a matchup as you could possibly want. But I think I'm going to go with Zach Ertz. And there's a reason why he's priced at $7,800. And that's because in his 4 games with Nick Foles this season, he has 46 targets. And that includes a game of 7 targets against the Rams. 46 targets. That is unreal.
That is.
I think it was 16, 13, 10, and 7. and the 16 came last week. I think that Zach Ertz is the way to go, and I'm going to hope to be on the right side of that and finally get a 30-point production out of my tight end. So wait and see. Defense is going to be hard as hell. We don't know who's going to be playing. If a guy has any type of injury on a playoff team, he's probably going to be getting rested if his team doesn't have a chance to get bounced out of the playoffs. And plus, we don't know what offensive starters are going to be there. And, a quarterback is pretty damn important. So what defense are you leaning on this week?
Rick, you hate to hear this. The Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, no, don't say that.
The Bears on the road only scored above 20 points 4 times this season. It's at Minnesota. Minnesota has to win this game to make the playoffs. This is the game that it works out to Minnesota has a great offensive performance, and before the game, I think they're going to win.
Oh, that pains me.
I also, like the Buffalo Bills, being at home against Miami, couldn't have a much more of a climate change from Miami to Buffalo. Buffalo is very good on defense. Miami is so on offense. Buffalo 3,700.
Yeah, I kind of do like Buffalo. A defense that I think I'm going to ride with this week, and it's going to surprise you a little bit, is the Carolina Panthers. I know that their defensive production hasn't been great, but like every single week, defenses, it's nothing for a top price defense to score 5 points. So I'm not going to roll the dice, really. I'm just going to play with Carolina. I mean, they've gotten 5, 12, 5, and 6, and that 12-point performance came against the Saints, playing with a full set of guys. And they didn't even score a defensive touchdown that game. They just were able to get sacks on Breeze. They were able to keep the offensive production low and get a fumble recovery and interception. Instead of Breeze, they're probably going to be seeing Teddy Bridgewater for the majority of the game. Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is a fine quarterback, but he's not Drew Brees. And we're getting Carolina Panthers at $3,000. So a quarterback that I liked would be Blake Bortles. And then you couple that with the Saints, with the Carolina defense. I know we're kind of taking a shot in the dark there, but that's $9,000 spent on 2 positions. So I really like the Carolina Panthers in this matchup. I wouldn't like them for like a daily fantasy thing or like a season-long, like if you're in your championship. But for a week-long fantasy where, 5 points isn't that outrageous to get out of your defense and you still get into the money, I think Carolina is the sneaky defense this week, and I'm going to be playing the shit out of them. So wait and see. Big money flops. Who are guys up at the top that we are not going to touch?
Number 1 has to be Todd Gurley. Like you said, he's been hurt. Questionable to play the game. And that's an actual questionable tag. So if they want to stay from him, Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas locked into the 4th spot. Under Hopkins, he scares me. He wasn't that great last week against a bad defense. Now he's playing a good defense in Jacksonville. And you're down the list, Saquon Barkley, same kind of thing. If he gets kind of dinged up in that game against Dallas, who is a good rushing defense, really play. And then, all the Saints players.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch a Saint, and I'm not going to touch a Cowboy. But at the top for quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes at 9,500, I think that's a little bit of a stretch for me. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to play that. And then outside of just teams that we're going to be staying clear of, like we did say Todd Gurley, like Christian McCaffrey, I feel like you're just going to be treading water if you think that just because of the fact that the Saints are going to be resting guys, that Christian McCaffrey is going to pop off and have like this explosive game, because unfortunately he's not. Like the Saints defense, even if it's backups, they know that there's one guy on the offense that they have to stop to get out of there with a win, will be Christian McCaffrey. So I think I'll be steering clear of that. I will be steering clear of DeAndre Hopkins, like you said, Michael Thomas, OBJ, Keenan Allen. I definitely don't love the matchup for him. And then as far as tight ends go, I think George Kittle's probably the only high-priced guy that I'm going to be shied away from big time. Along with, Kyle Rudolph. He's not super expensive. He's only $6,000, but he's the 4th highest priced tight end on the ballot here. So I will be staying clear of him. And then as defenses go, high-priced defenses, I don't think I'm even going to mess with them, just because it's going to be such a crapshoot this week, and we really don't know what we're going to get out of guys. Like, Houston being 5,000, that was priced for Cody Kessler.
Yeah.
Now we're getting Blake Bortles, who is 5 times better than Cody Kessler. So you really can't fall in love with any of these matchups. And, the Rams playing the 49ers, the 49ers find a way to put up points. Like, they're sneaky good. Like, they were able to get into the red zone multiple times against the Bears, so I expect them to be able to do the same against the Rams. And if they turn those red zone opportunities into touchdowns, you're going to have a long day chasing points, picking the Rams defense at 4,800. So, Leighton, meet stud alert. What quarterbacks are going to get us 30 and what skill players are going to get us 20?
I don't think he get you 30 points with Mahomes. I do like him. I think he get you upper 20s. But Big Ben, like Matt Ryan, I like Aaron Rodgers, like you said. One guy to say, just to clear up, we're still clear Russell Wilson. Arizona has a good pass defense. Nothing really to play for there, so I'll go with that. And James Winston.
Yeah, the only thing that I do not like about Russell Wilson is that his pass totals 17, 20, 31, 29. That is unbelievable for a quarterback in 2018 to be putting up those kind of numbers. But meet stud alert at the quarterback position. I think there's 4 guys, and they're your 4 highest price options. I think Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to go out there and tear it up, but he's also $1,000 more than anybody else on the slate, so you can't fall in love with it. Big Ben. I think Big Ben easily goes over 30. Matt Ryan, he's going to flirt with 30, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do pretty similar to what he did last week. Maybe he won't get the rushing touchdowns, but I think he will get the passing yards and the passing touchdowns to get him within the 30 range. As far as running backs, I really like Chris Carson to go over 20. I said it earlier that the Cardinals' defense has been terrible against the run, and this is a game that they need to win to be able to secure that 5 seed in the NFC playoff picture. So they will be leaning on their go-to guy, and I think that he's easily going to pop off for 20. Same with James Conner. And if C.J. Anderson gets the lion's share of the snaps there for the Rams, I think he can go over 20 as well. Devontae Adams, Juju, and AB. I think there is a route to get AB and Juju both within the 20 mark. Tyreek Hill, I think he's going to have a phenomenal game. If I like Patrick Mahomes, I have to like him a little bit. But I also think that there's no way he goes 5 weeks without a touchdown. And then I do think Zach Ertz will pop off for 20. It's a must-win game for Philly. And, Washington's defense has been suspect at best over the last, since they got HaHa Clinton-Dix, especially in the secondary. So I do like all those guys to find a way over 20. So wait and see. It is time for our Sauce on the Side official lineup. First off, I'm going to start off hot. Blake Bortles. I said we're going to start with Blake Bortles because last week I gave you a quarterback of 6,000 who ended up being one of the best quarterbacks on the slate, Nick Foles. I think Blake Bortles is in a very similar matchup where he's a quarterback that can get hot. And realistically, all we need for a week-long fantasy is a guy that gets hot. And he's going to be in that position where he's playing to basically put more game film out there for other teams. I mean, he didn't have a phenomenal game against Miami, but he was also watching Cody Kessler take snaps all week, but he ended up finishing the game with 25 rush yards, and he was 5 for 6 passing the ball. So I do like Blake Bortles there. I think that Houston will put up points, so he's going to have to do the same. Running back, James Conner. I think this is the lock of the century. I mean, he's 8,000, and he's playing in a must-win game, so if they do get up big, they're going to hand the ball off to James Conner, who's kind of the guy who helped get them there over the past 12 weeks of the NFL season. Then I'm going Chris Carson. If he's a meat stud alert and he's 6,400, he's an obvious play for me. Devontae Adams, he will be my wide receiver 1 at 8,500. He is the model of consistency, and also with the model of consistency, I'm going with Julian Edelman. I mean, the guy has put up points every single time he's walked onto the field this season, but for some reason we're still getting him at 7,100, and I'm completely okay with that. It's just because he doesn't have that much of point variation, and basically every game is between 16 to 12 points. And then I'm going to kind of take a flyer here on it's not necessarily a flyer, as it is more of like a gut pick. It's a guy who hasn't had that great of production lately, and that's Kenny Golladay. Got 15 targets last week against Minnesota, only scored 8.8 points. But the last time he played Green Bay, they had their full onslaught of wide receivers, and he was able to go for 98 yards and a score. I think he's going to have pretty similar production this week, just with more targets. Zach Ertz, 7,800. Obvious reasons there. I mean, Nick Foles is under center. Nick Foles is throwing the ball 46 times in 4 games. You have to play him. Then my flex position, I'm going C.J. Anderson, 6,200, and he has a chance to get me Todd Gurley-like production. Sign me up any day of the week. Thing that flew under the radar last week with C.J. Anderson is that he did actually get targets, which is a rarity for him. Got 3 targets. I know 3 targets isn't a ton. He wasn't very productive with them, but I like 3 more opportunities out of the backfield for my running back any day of the week. And then I'm going with my defense, Carolina Panthers. That's a shot in the dark. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. It's a shot in the dark. They're $3,000, so if they don't pop off for 20 points, don't come back crying to me. They are what they are. They're a defense that's priced to play Drew Brees, that's going to get to play Teddy Bridgewater. So, latency. I know that we've kind of reiterated and said it and beaten to people's heads that opportunity makes everything this week. Is there one thing that you're going to look out for this week more so than any other week? This is the only week that we completely change our strategy, so go ahead, fill me in.
I'm really looking at what the coaches say today, Friday, and tomorrow about reps and workloads. Because I was going through it earlier, I was reading some stuff. James Winston kind of said he wouldn't mind getting Ryan Griffin into a game for the first time in his career. Granted, this is Ryan's. Ryan's been on 2 rosters, Saints and Buccaneers, 6 seasons, had not played a snap. So it could just be trying to be a nice for the kid who worked hard for 6 years, but stuff like that you gotta look at going up to game time.
Yeah, this is the week, like, more so than any, like, pay attention. Do your research. Read up on what these coaches are doing. Nobody can dive into the mind of an NFL head coach. And if we did, we would all still be stuck in Andy Reid's head trying to find our way out. So you guys need to pay attention. We need to be reading stuff. And I mean, this is stuff that we're going to have to pay attention to more so than any other week, all the way up till noon kickoff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not going to know what the hell's going on until these guys are walking out onto the field in the second half of the game. So, this is a crapshoot this week. It really is. Week 1 was a crapshoot. We kicked it in the nuts. This week, we're going to do the same thing. So, Dippers, pay attention. Let's win some money. And on that note, for Drake, for Leighton C., as always, Dippers, stay saucy.